Abandoned elderly parents left on the road reveal hidden life-changing lessons that inspire hearts. The snow fell thick that night, coating the town like a muffled blanket. Mary's heart raced as frantic calls echoed in her ears, each voice tainted with fear and worry. "It's Tom, Mary!" He*s wandering out by the roadside, lost in the snow. She felt each word pierce through her like icy daggers. Her father, once a proud Vietnam veteran, now slipped deeper into invisible holes of despair. The weight of those she loved pressed down on her mother gone, leaving her to shoulder the world alone, a single mom and weary nurse working double shifts just to make ends meet. As she rushed to find him, vivid memories swirled in her mind, the warmth of her mother's hugs, Tom's laughter over shared stories of bravery, and now, nightmarish scenes of his confusion. The endless sacrifices she'd made flooded her thoughts. They were mere drops in the ocean of what her family had endured. When she finally pulled up to the roadside, her breath caught at the sight of him, a fragile shadow lost in the growing darkness. The wind whipped around him, making his camo jacket flutter like a lost flag of honor. "Dad!" she called, her voice a desperate whisper as she sprinted toward him, the snow crunching beneath her feet. He turned, confusion etching lines deeper into his weathered face. She wrapped him in her arms, their warmth mingling with the chill of the air. "I'm here, Dad. You're safe." Tears brimmed in her eyes as she felt the weight of his grief, as heavy as the snowflakes that fell silently around them. The community, those familiar faces from local churches and diners, came together in the days that followed. They shared stories of their own struggles with aging parents. Mary smiled faintly, comforted and yet aching with the shame that lingered like an unwelcome guest. As they reminisced about Tom's service, she lifted her chin. She wanted to stand proud but knew how people sometimes turned away from the truths of companionship, aging, and the price of freedom. The town hall meeting loomed ahead, a chance to voice the collective frustrations of families grappling with similar issues. Mary's heart thundered as she stood before them, vulnerable yet fierce. "Our veterans deserve dignity. They're not just stories, they are our fathers and mothers." Her voice rose above the murmurs, fueled by frustration and hope. The faces in the crowd shifted from bored to intrigued, but as the discussion grew heated, she felt a weight settle on her chest, the pressure of society's expectations crushing her swiftly. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Just as Mary felt they were gaining momentum, an unexpected revelation from an audience member sent tremors through her heart. What would she sacrifice for her father's dignity? Could she continue to fight for him while chasing her own dreams? The air buzzed with anticipation as the crowd leaned in, caught in the tension of their shared struggle for justice and understanding. Would they unite to lift her family from despair, or would Mary be left standing alone in that cold night, the weight of societal expectations threatening to bury her dreams? Mary stood at the front of the room, her heart pounding in sync with the whispering crowd. Faces blurred together, but she focused on one emotion tethered to each person: hope. It surged through the dimly lit hall, a force that felt almost tangible. She hadn't expected her words to resonate so deeply, to stir a collective sense of purpose among strangers. Yet the moment when she spoke her truth, it had sparked something within them. But with that warmth came fear, gnawing at her insides. What if she failed? What if this moment wasn't enough? She could feel the weight of Tom's solemn gaze on her as he sat in the back, wrapped in layers that couldn't quite shield him from the chill of reality. She was his voice, but could she be enough? Suddenly, an elderly man named Mr. Jenkins stood up from the back, using his cane for support. "I applaud your bravery, young lady," he declared, his voice trembling yet strong. "But we need practical solutions. Not just words." The room responded with murmurs of agreement and nods, fueling the fire in Mary's chest. She caught a glimpse of Tom's frown, unaware that his daughter was a lighthouse in the storm. I understand, Mary replied, remembering the countless late-night phone calls, the conversations filled with rage and sorrow over lost support systems. What we need is to create a community resources, support groups, a network built on trust. Each word ignited a flicker of hope in her chest, a challenge thrown at the feet of her neighbors. Could a community truly rise to defend those who sacrificed so much? With hesitant determination, she continued, we can find ways to support one another. Let us gather experiences, share our stories. Together, we can approach the city council. We shouldn't have to fight alone. Encouraged murmurs rippled through the audience, but then came the voice that sliced through the hope like a knife. A woman at the front, her face shadowed by layers of worry, interjected, but what if they ignore us? My husband forgot my name yesterday. I can't afford to wait. Can you promise us change? Change can happen overnight, Mary said, her heart aching for the woman's pain. But it was a spark of truth she felt compelled to share. We must take it one step at a time. Band together as equals, as family. We fight for the Tom S., the Alfred S., the Susan S. Every person has a story worth fighting for. She felt the resolve settle over the room, a mixture of fear and determination. Yet beneath that surface, there was a question lingering. Could they really transform their pain into action? As the meeting continued, ideas bounced around like tossed snowflakes, each idea alighting upon Mary's heart like a whisper of resolve. She took notes, outlined goals, and for the first time in a long time, a plan began to form not just for her father but for all of them. But as the realization swelled, so did the fear that gripped her. The community had rallied, but what would happen when the call to action faded? When she glanced back at Tom, his expression was unreadable, and doubt crept back in. How far would she go to lead a fight rooted in love? As the closing words of the meeting rang out, Mary could almost hear the echo of her own heart whispering a truth she barely dared to acknowledge. What happens when the fight gets too hard? The lingering uncertainty pressed upon her, making her question if she could rise to meet not just the community's needs but her own dreams as well. The thought was enough to send shivers down her spine. Would she stand tall or collapse beneath the weight of it all? That night, as she walked home, the snow crunching under her boots, she felt the determination ignite. They had started something fragile yet strong. But the road ahead was uncertain, one storm away from unraveling completely. What will she discover about herself as she leads this growing movement? And how far will she push herself to protect the love waiting at home? The following days blended into one another, and Mary felt the stirrings of hope intertwined with a persistent anxiety. She had ignited something within the community, but could she fuel that fire before it flickered out? She spent late nights drafting plans, visiting others in their homes, listening to stories of loss and resilience, and jotting down each name that mattered. Tom's condition loomed heavy over every conversation. He was her silent anchor, but she couldn't shake the worry that he might one day forget who she was. Every time she returned home and found him entwined in his thoughts, a part of her quivered. Would he remember the love they shared when shadows grew darker? One crisp afternoon, Mary visited a local center that served families like hers. She entered the building and was met by the warm smiles of volunteers, their eyes gleaming with kindness. An atmosphere buzzed with laughter and chatter, but a quiet corner caught her eye. There she spotted an elderly couple, holding hands and sharing soft words that were inaudible to everyone around them. It sparked something deep inside her, a vision of what could be for Tom and others like him. What if they created a space like this? A place filled with laughter, where families could connect and learn from each other? She took a seat nearby, the couple unaware of her keen gaze. It was their undeniable bond that spoke louder than any planning meeting or community gathering. Time slipped by, and Mary was pulled from her thoughts by the man's soft voice. We've been married for 55 years, he told his wife, his face radiating warmth. Every day is a gift, even the hard ones. It was in that moment that inspiration struck her like a lightning bolt. Mary jumped up, her heart racing as possibilities blossomed in her mind. She rushed home, grabbing her notebook, furiously writing down ideas. What they needed wasn't just a call to action, but a space of love, a haven where memories could be shared, laughter could bloom, and support could thrive. That evening, Mary proposed her idea at another community meeting. She cast her vision before the gathered faces, her voice a passionate melody weaving through their hearts. "Let us create a community center," she exclaimed. "A place where families can come together, share their struggles, their joys, their stories. We can bring therapy workshops, caregiver support groups, art classes, anything that helps bring us back to the present." Eyes sparkled with new determination, and the air thickened with excitement. Encouragement rippled through the crowd, faces igniting with ideas of their own. Enthusiastic hands raised to volunteer, to paint walls, to fundraise, to do anything that would breathe life into this dream. Yet even as she spoke, a flood of doubt threatened to rise within her. What if they embarked on this journey together, and the end resulted in heartbreak? What if she was not enough to carry the weight of their hopes? As Tom watched her from the back of the room, a fleeting moment of connection passed between them. It was a silent agreement, a thread weaving through their hearts. He might journey further into the fog of his mind, but she would stand for him. She would be his voice until her last breath faded. After the meeting, as she gathered her things, a young woman approached her, eyes glimmering with tears. She clutched a piece of paper in her hand. "Mary, I want to help. You've given me hope," she whispered, "just like you did for my mom." That small statement ignited a pulse of warmth in Mary's chest, exhilarating yet terrifying. Was this the start of something real? A movement powered by shared stories and compassion? As she looked out into the darkening evening sky, her heart thudded with possibility. Yet deep inside, she knew their journey had only just begun. What would she discover about herself in the throes of building this community? And how would she weather the storms that surely lay ahead? The days that followed were filled with a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. Mary carried the weight of a growing vision on her shoulders, each step forward mingled with the fear of what lay ahead. Every morning, she woke with her heart racing, determined to forge connections, rally volunteers, and spread the word about the community center. She met with local businesses, sharing her dream at coffee shops and dining tables. One afternoon, while sitting across from a barista named Jake, who had lost his grandmother to Alzheimer's, she felt a spark of recognition. He didn't just share her vision, he understood the stakes. "People forget, but love never does," he told her, his eyes glistening with sincerity. "What you're building is more than a place. It's a testament to those who've fought to be remembered." His words hung in the air, a gentle reminder that each contribution mattered. Together, they brainstormed ideas for fundraising. Hosting bake sales, car washes, and even local picture nights, anything to bring the community together in support of something larger than themselves. As excitement grew, so did the hurdles. Mary found herself at the mercy of logistics. Finding a space, acquiring necessary permits, and battling her own self-doubt. One evening, after a long day of meetings, she returned home to Tom. He sat in his usual spot by the window, staring out into the night. She felt her heart quiver. "Hey, Tom," she said softly, pulling up a chair beside him. "Big day today. We're moving closer." He turned to her, his brow furrowed. "Closer to what, Mary?" She hesitated, a lump forming in her throat. "To a new beginning, a place for families, like us." Tom looked into her eyes, his expression shifting from confusion to a nostalgic warmth that filled her with hope. "You want to help them?" he whispered, almost as if trying to piece the puzzle together. "Yes," Mary breathed, tears threatening to spill over. "But what if I can't carry this burden? What if it all crumbles?" In that moment, she caught a glimpse of the man she knew and loved, even if it was sometimes fleeting. Tom reached for her hand, his grip gentle but firm. "You've always been strong, Mary. You just forgot sometimes." That night, she lay awake, tossing and turning, the weight of her mission heavy on her chest. Was she truly enough to lead? Was she strong enough to inspire hope while grappling with the fear of losing Tom? A week later, as the first volunteers gathered for a brainstorming session at the community park, Mary was struck by how the once fractured group began to come alive with energy. They exchanged stories, laughter, and pain. Each person brought a piece of themselves, and in that moment of connection, Mary realized she wasn't just building a center, she was weaving together a community. "Let us call it the Haven," someone suggested, and the name resonated through the group like a prayer. Mary felt a rush of exhilaration and relief. In that space, barriers dropped and vulnerability bloomed. Yet, as they began discussing plans, a hollowness tugged at Mary. How could she encourage others to heal when she was terrified of her own heart being exposed? Desperately wanting to put her doubts behind her, she stood up and said, "Let us find our first official day of opening." They cheered, voices rising in unison, but underneath the cheers, she felt a swell of fear and an eerie sense that her world would soon be tested in ways she couldn't predict. As the crowd buzzed with ideas, Mary caught sight of a woman standing apart from the group. She seemed withdrawn, clutching a small bundle to her chest. Mary's heart sank. Before she could approach her, the woman turned and slipped away into the shadows, leaving behind an unseen story that begged to be shared. What secret weighed so heavily on the woman's heart? And would Mary discover the connections that lay just beyond what was visible? The following week brought a whirlwind of activity. With friends and family rallying around her, Mary felt the momentum building. Even Tom was taking small steps to engage with the outside world. He began sitting with her at the kitchen table, as she spread out fundraising materials and volunteer lists. She found herself smiling at his quiet but supportive presence. Despite the community's enthusiasm, Mary couldn't shake the image of the woman who had slipped away from the brainstorming session. It nagged at her like a stubborn itch. So many stories lingered just beyond reach, and she longed to uncover them. Determined to learn more, she headed to the park early Saturday morning. The sun spilled through the trees, illuminating the paths where laughter and conversations were starting to sprout like flowers. After a few hours of implementing ideas and collecting donations, she noticed a familiar figure, the woman who had evaded her last time. This time, Mary approached with intention. "Hi there," she said gently, her voice warm and inviting. "I'm Mary. I saw you the other day at the meeting. I'd love to hear what you think about the Haven." The woman paused, her arms tightening around the bundle she had been guarding so closely. "I am not sure I belong," she stammered, eyes wide with the weight of unshed tears. Mary's heart ached. "You absolutely belong. Everyone does. This is a place for all of us." The woman hesitated and then shifted slightly, revealing a small, quilted blanket. "My mother, she is struggling. She doesn't recognize me anymore. I feel like I've lost her, you know?" Her voice cracked like ice hitting the ground. Mary felt a wave of compassion wash over her. "I can only imagine how heartbreaking that must be," she said, trying to connect. "You're not alone in this. So many people understand that pain." As the woman's walls started to crumble, she slowly opened the blanket, revealing a small photo album. "This was her before everything," she said, pointing to the smiling faces frozen in time. "Now, she barely remembers who I am." Mary's breath hitched in her throat. "The moments you shared, those are still a part of her. And they can be a part of others too, if we work together." The woman looked up, startled but intrigued. "What do you mean?" Mary smiled gently. "At the Haven, we can create events that honor those memories. Remind families of those fleeting connections. We can help not only keep their love alive but bring joy to those still battling their own losses." A tentative smile appeared on the woman's face, revealing a flicker of hope buried deep within. That might be nice." Encouraged, Mary urged, "Let us do it together. You're not just another volunteer, you have a voice that needs to be heard." As they stood side by side, Mary realized how fragile life was, yet how fragrant the petals of resilience could be when nurtured by shared experiences. That evening, as Mary returned home, she carried a new sense of purpose. The image of the woman's tears mixed with the laughter of the gathering echoed in her mind. It felt like the community was coming alive. But underneath her exhilaration, a nagging concern simmered. Could they create lasting impact, or would their efforts crumble under the weight of harsh realities? With the photographs of love still lingering, Mary became more determined than ever. The Haven was becoming more than a community center. It was a sanctuary for stories to be told. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows that seemed to lengthen the weight of the unknown, she knew one thing for sure: the journey was just beginning, and every story mattered. But what would happen when the past converged with the present? Would their shared stories be enough to bind them together when the challenges grew darker? Mary awoke the next morning with an unusual energy sparking in her chest. The sun streamed through her window, casting bright patterns across her room. Today, she didn't just want to plan, she wanted to ignite something special. She pictured the Haven filled with laughter, stories, and the warmth of shared memories. After breakfast, she called a meeting with her growing group of volunteers. They gathered excitedly around the kitchen table, a few familiar faces looking back at her with encouragement glimmering in their eyes. "We're not just planning events. We're creating a community that cherishes every story, every struggle," she began, her voice firm but filled with eagerness. The room buzzed with ideas and aspirations. Each suggestion felt like a delicate thread, weaving together a tapestry of hope. They talked about memory therapy days, art classes for caregivers, even a storytelling night where families could share their journeys. Each idea sparked a wave of solidarity. As Mary listened, she realized they weren't just connecting strangers, they were laying the foundation for something meaningful. "Let us call it Memories Matter," Mary proposed, her heart racing with the weight of the name. "Because they do. And letting people honor their loved ones can change everything." There were nods of agreement all around. As the meeting wrapped up, Mary felt a tug somewhere deep within her. Something was calling her back to the park where she had first met the woman. She needed to find her again, to solidify their connection and invite her to be part of this vibrant idea. With a shared purpose propelling her forward, Mary made her way to the park, scanning the crowd of families and friends. But the park was different today. The laughter felt hollow, and the air buzzed with an uneasy tension that nibbled at the edges of her enthusiasm. Then she spotted her there, sitting alone on a bench, the familiar quilt wrapped around her. Mary approached slowly, heart thrumming in her chest. "Hi! I'm so glad to see you again," she said softly, hoping to overcome the woman's apparent shadows. The woman looked up, surprise flickering in her eyes. "You?" She blinked as if waking from a dream. "You've been on my mind. I wanted to share a project we're starting at the Haven. It's called Memories Matter, and we want you to be involved. Your story matters." Mary's words hung in the air, and she could see the woman hesitating. "I'm not sure, I don't know a lot," and what if her voice trembled, uncertainty soaking her words. Mary reached out, her hands brushing against the edges of the quilt. "Every story starts with a single moment. Think of how many beautiful moments you've shared with your mother. You have so much to give, to share with others who might feel the same." There was a flicker in the woman's gaze, a softening that hinted at a wall beginning to crumble. I don't know if I'm ready." Mary held her breath. What if you turned that uncertainty into strength? What if by sharing, you not only touch other hearts but perhaps even heal yours? Tears pooled in the woman's eyes, and Mary felt her own heart clenching in empathy. They both stood on the precipice of something powerful. "I need to think about it," she whispered, her vulnerability hanging thick in the air. As Mary walked away, the woman's hesitation lingered in her mind. Time felt suspended. Would she return with an open heart? Could they truly build something worth holding on to together? The morning passed, but the questions remained, echoing louder than ever. Could the Haven truly be a lifeline, or would the fear of loss overshadow the beauty of sharing? As the sky began to dim, Mary realized the fight would only grow fiercer from here. They were at the brink of discovery, but she could feel the shadows lurking. What truths would unravel as stories intertwined? Would every voice truly matter in pushing through the struggles ahead? Mary arrived home feeling the weight of the woman's uncertainty. It echoed in her own heart, filling her with a mixture of hope and anxiety. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows that snaked through her living room. She sank into her favorite chair, trying to process everything. It felt as if she were standing on the edge of a vast cliff, looking out into an unknown sea of emotions. Days passed, and the excitement of planning memories matter mingled with the nagging thought of the woman on the bench. Mary busied herself with volunteers, gathering supplies and creating flyers. Each detail built up her vision, but that one connection weighed heavily on her. Then, out of nowhere, she received a call. Her heart raced when she saw the number on her phone. Her mother. "Mary, can you come over?" "I need your help," her mother said, her voice trembling. The rush of emotions was immediate. Mary hadn't anticipated this call. Maybe it was time. Maybe it was the moment she had been waiting for. "Of course, Mom. I'll be there." Arriving at her childhood home, Mary noticed how the little things tugged at her heart: the worn-out welcome mat, the flower bed her mother used to tend with care, the sound of familiar creaking stairs. She stepped inside to find her mother sitting on the couch, hands clasped tightly. "Mary," her mother started, something in her tone felt different, heavy. "I feel like I've been losing myself lately." "Your father, yes, not the same, and it scares me. I've been thinking about us, about how I've always tried to be strong, but maybe I don't have to be all the time." Mary felt her throat tighten. Here was the woman who had raised her, now confessing her vulnerabilities. "You don't have to carry that weight alone, Mom. You can lean on me." She poured them both a cup of tea, feeling the warmth seep through her hands, grateful for this moment. It was just like old times, yet more profound. Her mother looked at her, a mixture of gratitude and fear in her eyes. "What if I don't know how to share my story?" That instant, Mary knew every story was valid. They were all worth being told, just like the woman in the park. It's okay not to have all the answers. You just have to start. What's something you remember about Dad that makes you smile? For the next hour, the floodgates opened. Her mother began to share her memories, threading them together with laughter and occasional tears. Mary listened intently, feeling the past twist with the present. This was what she wanted: this connection, this vulnerability. She felt the warmth of hope blossoming in her chest. Their conversations felt like anchors, grounding them both even in the storm of changes around them. Just as the sun set outside, painting the walls with golden light, her mother turned serious. "I saw something today, Mary." "Something troubling," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. Mary leaned closer. "What is it?" There were two elderly people, sitting alone on the side of the road. It left me shaken. I can't stop thinking about them. A chill coursed through Mary. "What do you mean?" "It's just they looked abandoned. It made me wonder about the stories they carry, the lives they've led. What happens when nobody listens?" Her mother's gaze deepened, filled with questions. "I can find them, Mom. We can bring them to the Haven, share their stories. They should be heard." As the weight of that possibility hung between them, something shifted. They were both looking out over the horizon of new beginnings, just as Mary had done earlier, only now, it felt tangible. But the thought of challenging the challenges ahead left her with a sense of urgency. Who were those elderly strangers, and what truths lay waiting to be uncovered? Would Mary and her mother be ready to embrace the stories that could change their lives forever? The next morning, Mary woke with a renewed sense of purpose. The sun spilled through her window, bathing her room in a gentle light. With thoughts of her mother's revelations still fresh, she felt a fire ignite within her. She needed to act, and fast. Mary poured herself a cup of coffee, the aroma wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. As she sipped, her mind raced with plans. How could she possibly find those elderly people? They were strangers, after all. But that didn't deter her. She jotted down some notes, a list of potential places to start looking: local parks, community centers, anywhere where the elderly might gather. She was determined to track them down. "Mom," she called as she tossed her bag over her shoulder. "I'm heading out to find those people you saw yesterday. I'll be back later." Her mother's voice floated back from the kitchen. "Be careful, Mary. Keep your phone close." The warmth of her mother's concern wrapped around Mary as she stepped outside into the brisk morning air. Each step she took toward her car felt like a step into a new, uncharted territory. She drove through town, her heart racing with anticipation. Every park she passed had groups of retirees chatting on benches, playing cards, or simply watching the world go by. But none felt right, none felt like they held the stories she longed to hear. Hours slipped by as she wandered from place to place, her hope faltering with each empty chair. Just as defeat began to creep in, she decided to stop at a small diner she used to visit with her parents as a child. Perhaps there, she might find someone who could help her. The bell jingled as she entered, and the familiar smell of fried food nostalgia wrapped around her. She settled into a booth at the back, scanning the room. A few older folks dotted the tables, but one woman in particular caught her eye. She sat by the window, her white hair gleaming in the sunlight, a solitary figure lost in thought. Without thinking, Mary stood up and approached her. "Excuse me," Mary said, her voice soft. "I couldn't help but notice you sitting here. I'm looking for 2 elderly people I heard about. Do you happen to know anyone who might fit that description?" The woman looked up, her blue eyes sparkling with a hint of wisdom. "There are many stories in this town, dear. You might find what you're looking for at the community center down the road. They have a gathering every Wednesday, and many come to share their tales." Mary felt a rush of adrenaline. That was a lead. "Thank you. I really appreciate it." As she departed, the woman called after her, "You understand, don't you? We all have voices that deserve to be heard." Driving to the community center, Mary felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. What if these stories changed everything for her and her mother? What if they helped heal the wounds of the past? This was no longer just about finding 2 strangers, it felt larger than that. It was about connection, empathy, and breaking the cycle of silence. When she arrived, the atmosphere buzzed with a sense of community. Mary took a deep breath and stepped inside, her heart pounding. Each face she passed held a lifetime of stories waiting to be shared. At that moment, she knew she was on the right path. But as she began to gather her courage to ask around, a thought crept into her mind: what if there was someone waiting for her, just like she was waiting for them? This new journey felt like a thread pulling her closer to her mother, to the struggles they both faced. Would the story they uncovered together bring them even closer, or would it unravel old wounds that had only begun to scab over? With her heart in her throat, Mary stepped further into the room, ready to embrace whatever truths awaited her. She could feel the air thick with possibility. Who would she meet at this gathering, and what life-changing lessons would emerge in the stories shared? Mary hesitated just inside the entrance of the community center, the chatter of voices washing over her. It was warm and inviting, but she felt out of place, the nervous energy buzzing in her chest. The faces around her smiling, some animated in conversation, seemed so at ease. She took a deep breath and reminded herself why she was here. "Just ask," she whispered to herself. "Find out what you need to know." She stepped into the room, scanning for someone who might help. An older man at a table near the center caught her eye. He wore thick glasses perched on the bridge of his nose, his hands animated as he recounted a story to a small group. They leaned in, hung on his every word. That's where she needed to go. With hesitant steps, Mary approached their table. "Excuse me," she interrupted gently, her voice wavering slightly. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm looking for some information, and I need your help." The man's eyes shifted to her, and he paused his storytelling. "Well, what can we do for you, young lady?" "I'm searching for 2 elderly people. My mom mentioned she saw them a few days ago. I'm not really sure how to find them, but I feel like they may have something important to share." Her heart raced as she spoke, each word heavier than the last. The group exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from curiosity to concern. The older man chuckled lightly. "2 elderly folks, you say? I know a few around here who could fit that bill. But what makes you think they have something important to share?" Mary fidgeted, thoughts racing. "My mother, she has been going through a lot, and I think hearing their stories could help her. I just feel like there's more to the past than we know." As she spoke, she thought of the whispered conversations in their living room and the pain hidden behind her mother's smile. Would hearing others' stories shine a light into those dark corners? "Well," the man said thoughtfully, "maybe you're right. A lot goes unsaid as the years go by. Each of us here has faced our own battles. I'll tell you what, come back tomorrow for our Wednesday gathering. Some of the folks you seek might just show up, and you can talk to them. Mary's heart leaped. Really? Thank you, that would be amazing. Of course, he replied, nodding. But be prepared. Sometimes, the past doesn't reveal itself without some digging or some tears. As the weight of his words settled in, Mary felt both hope and dread intertwine. Yes, she wanted to hear those stories, but what if they unearthed wounds left open, leaving her and her mother more shattered than before? Thank you again, Mary said, her voice steadying. I'll be here. As she walked away, her mind buzzed with questions. The gathering felt like a turning point, but how would uncovering these narratives impact her relationship with her mother? Could they truly face the truths waiting in the shadows? She stepped outside, the evening air cooler now, a slight chill that made her shiver. But today felt significant, and under the twilight sky, she could see the stars begin to twinkle, hopeful and guiding. Back in her car, her hand shook slightly as she turned the ignition. The road ahead felt unclear, like a fog settling over her path. But one thing was certain, she couldn't turn back now. With determination, she whispered, "Tomorrow, we find the stories." But as she drove home, another thought twisted in her mind. What if those stories were not just about the past, but about her future too? And as the lights of the town flickered by, she pondered what would happen when secrets began to unravel. The day had finally come. Mary stood at the doorway of the community center, heart racing, clutching a notebook filled with thoughts and questions. Today was about discovery, about finding connection and healing, both for herself and her mother. She took a deep breath, letting the hum of conversation wash over her. She felt a collision of nervous energy and hope. People milled about, laughter filled the air, and bites of nostalgia danced in the room, where past moments were being shared like secret recipes. As she entered, the man from yesterday spotted her and waved her over. "Come on in. Let me introduce you to some friends." Mary's heart tingled at the invitation. He introduced her to Clara, a woman with silver hair and kind eyes that sparkled with wisdom. "You look like you're searching for something," she said, her voice soothing. "I am," Mary admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I heard stories about some elderly people who need to share their life experiences. I want to bring them to the Haven." Clara nodded knowingly. "We all have our battles. And trust me, when we start sharing, it feels like lifting weights off our hearts." Mary felt a spark of understanding. "Exactly. My mother, she has been struggling with the changes in our lives, and I believe hearing these stories could help her." "That's beautiful," Clara said, placing a gentle hand on Mary's arm. "You'd be surprised what people keep inside. Let me introduce you to some folks." As they moved through the room, Mary found herself drawn to many faces. A man named Harold, with weary eyes that sparkled with a narrative hiding behind layers of untold adventure. A couple, Linda and George, who held hands tightly as they spoke about their shared moments, both bitter and sweet. It was an embrace of humility and fragility. Mary steeled herself and approached Harold. "Hi, my name is Mary. I'm trying to reach out to those whose stories deserve to be told, who carry the weight of unshared memories." His gaze turned thoughtful. "I've lived long enough to know this. Our stories give us purpose, but sharing them can be frightening." The uncertainty in his voice resonated within Mary, her heart pounding at the thought how many stories remained untold in this room. Just then, Clara rejoined them and said, "Harold, Mary here wants to create a space for voices like yours. A place where we can open up and share our struggles. Would you join our movement?" Harold hesitated, glancing around as if considering the weight of shared words. "Well, maybe, but what if my stories weigh too heavy for others? What if they don't care?" "They do care," Mary responded, feeling the urge to lift him up. "Your words could help someone who feels alone in their journey. Help them realize they aren't the only ones fighting." He looked at her, eyes softened. "You believe that?" "I do," Mary replied, her own emotions flooding her heart. It was the truth she had drawn from the struggles with her own family. "I want to hear every story. It could spark something beautiful in those who listen." Gradually, as words flowed, so did the stories. Together, they shared laughter and tears, empowering each other like endless ripples in a pond. Mary could see moments of understanding wash over the faces around her. They were connecting, reaching into the past, preserving legacies that had been fading in the shadows. Later on, as the room began to empty, Mary noticed her mother standing at the entrance, a hesitant smile uncertain on her face. Mary dashed over and enveloped her in a warm embrace. "Mom! You made it! I was hoping you'd come. I wanted to see what you were building," her mother said softly, her hands gripping Mary's tightly. "I've been thinking a lot about our own story, and sharing it might not be so scary after all." As they stood together, Mary felt a rush of relief and joy. Her mother had taken the first step into vulnerability, where fear began to be replaced by hope. Turning to Harold and Clara, Mary said, "I want you all to meet my mom. She has memories that could truly inspire." As the group encircled them, her mother's initial trepidation melted away. Each person offered snippets of their life, forging connections that reminded them fiercely of their worth. Soon, laughter erupted and tears flowed, but tears of release, not sorrow. "Together we can create something that will change lives," Mary declared, feeling the power of their shared vision expand. "Let us call it Memories Matter. Because each of your stories is essential." Her mother, gazing around at the faces filled with hope, nodded solemnly, "Then I want to share mine too." With each story shared, walls came crumbling down. As the words traveled from heart to heart, Mary realized the greatest lesson: it wasn't just about uncovering hidden stories. It was about reaffirming bonds of love, tension, and healing among themselves. As they stood amidst the warmth of newfound kinship, Mary sensed a wave of deep transformation. Embracing one another's narratives felt like an unveiling, forging connections that were once buried. And as night fell over the community center, illuminated by the soft glow of overhead lights, the air crackled with authenticity, an electric reminder that every voice deserved to be heard, every fragile heart could find solace in shared truths. Mary leaned over to her mom, a radiant smile breaking across her face. "We did it, Mom. Together, we're creating change." As they left the center hand in hand, she reflected on the journey that lay ahead. What began with the unknown folks sitting on the side of the road had transformed into a powerful movement. Together, they would weather the storms and embrace the beauty of their legacies. Committed to the haven, to Memories Matter, Mary knew their stories had the power to inspire hearts, healing the past and igniting the future. This was the start of something monumental. And as the final whispers of evening drifted through the trees, Mary heeded their call. This was only the beginning. Are you ready to join this journey? Don't wait. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will touch your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the love, and comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this powerful video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Only true fans understand the importance of lifting each other up. Don't wait not even one more second to share.